Hi, my name's Dave Rush. I'm the author of the Simon books, and right now we've got out the Simon and the Kahagi and Simon's Journey to the Mountains of Darkness. But this has really nothing to do with those books, except that I've done a great deal of study in the book of Genesis in the Bible. It's kind of creating the backdrop, you might say, for the Simon books. And it's just kind of interesting how that lends itself to a lot of other conversations that we run across. I'm here on the shores of Lake Superior. This is probably my favorite place in the whole world. I just absolutely love the sight, the sound, the views. It's absolutely incredible. Right now, this place that we're standing is mostly stone. There's a lot of small stones here. And if you see maybe behind me, there's a number of people out today collecting stones. They walk along the shore, picking up what they call agates and Petoskey stones and a lot of other things I don't know anything about. I'm not a stone collector. It's not something that ever interested me much, but to each their own. It's kind of an interesting thing. But that does bring up an interesting topic. We've come across a number of people here on the lakeshore that are collecting or searching for agates. And agates are some sort of an ordinary brown stone. They don't look like much until you polish them up or you break them open. Apparently there's crystal kind of things inside of them. You can tell I don't know what I'm talking about, but you get the idea. To me, as I walk along the shore, they just look like a brown rock. So we came across a little tiny museum the other day, and it was called the Agate Museum. And we walked inside, and there was a rather brazen, brassy lady there who had the answers to everything anybody would ever ask. If you pay her for the answers, she's really willing to talk to you, literally. And I said, I'm not into rock collecting, it's not my thing, but I'm curious what it is about these little brown stones that people find so fascinating. To me, an amateur without any background on rocks, they look like rocks. And so she went on to explain, rather offended that I would ask such a stupid question. She went on to explain the value of the agate. And one of the things she really got into and hammered on over and over was the fact that these are the oldest rocks on Earth. Some of these are 20, 30, even 40 billion years old. And she picked up one that she had behind the counter there and showed it to us. She wouldn't let us touch it. It's her special rock. And it was the size of, bigger than a softball, but, smaller than a melon. And she said it's worth, $8,000, she said. And I asked why, and she proceeded to explain that it was one of the oldest rocks on Earth, exceeding the age of other rocks. And, it had special character and special quality and all these lines in it and all of that kind of thing. And honestly, it was rather fascinating, really. So it brings up the subject, really, how old is this Earth? And as I sit here on the shores of Lake Superior, I ponder that question, and her comments about the billions and billions of years old, I hear that a lot. And because I work in the scope of Genesis and the creation of the Earth, and I do a lot of study with that, I'm well aware of all of the debates that are out there. So I don't want you to think that I've got the answers and all the other debaters are wrong. That's not what I'm saying at all. There's no clear answer. But we live in an age where we feel like, or we believe, because we've got progressive science and we've got spacecraft and satellites and we've got ways of measuring time and things that have never existed before, we kind of have this feeling that we know more than we used to know. If you had asked any scholar 500 years ago, I'm just pulling a number out, 1,000 years ago, how old is the Earth, they automatically would have looked at the Bible and they would have added up the age of the people who've lived since the Earth, the creation of the Earth, and they would have given you a number that seemed to satisfy that. And today, if I go back in the Bible, and any Jewish Bible scholar, any Christian Bible scholar will tell you, from the creation of man till now, we're looking at about 6,000 to 8,000 years, in that range. It's hard to really pin it down. Some people have pinned it right down to the year, but then there's others who debate it and say, well, no, that's not accurate because, and honestly, I don't get into that. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But when you start talking the difference between 6,000 or 8,000 years, or even 10,000, or billions and billions, it used to be 20 billion, then it was 30 billion, now it's 40 billion. Where does it end? And so it really brings up the subject of how old is this earth, and it's based on so much of what you believe about creation. My Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But be careful. There's a change here someplace. God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the earth. And the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." But what was that whole thing leading up to it? The earth was without form and void. I did an earlier video on what it means to say tohu vavohu, what the Jewish word is that's translated without form and void. There was a period of time, was it a day, was it 2 hours, or was it billions of years, where the earth was without form and void. And here's where I think the problem lies. On day one, God created light. Period. We don't know what that light was. He didn't create the sun, the moon, and the stars till later on. But the end of day one, he said, in the evening and the morning were the first day. God created light. He separated light from darkness, and that was day one. What happened on day one is God created time. And we've got a problem in these earthly bodies, in our the way we live and the way we're built and the way that God designed us, that we are restricted, we are chained to time. We measure everything by days, months, years, millions of years, billions of years, whatever you want to do. God is not limited by time. So immediately when we say God created the earth, and so right away we say, well, how many years between creation and the first day when he created light? It's the wrong question. We can't ask that because we put that into, we're trying to squeeze it into something we call measurable time. And God's not going to allow that. God doesn't live in time. And it'll blow your socks off. There's no way you're going to wrap your mind around. Sorry, we're human. God created us with this limitation called time. God does not have that limitation. And so there is this thing that happened where God created the earth without form and void and with darkness upon the face of the earth. Tohu vavohu. And then he created time. And even to say the word "and then" gives the concept of there was something, time went on, and then. And even that, to say those words is wrong. Because God created the heavens and the earth without form and void. There's this primordial soup. God created time. Before that, there was no time, no measurement of time. Now let's back up another step, or go forward another step. When God created Adam and Eve, did he create an embryo, a fetus, an infant? No. He created a man, fully grown. He was 20, 30, 40 years old, whatever. He was a man, fully grown. When he created Eve from the rib of the man, the woman, he created a woman, not a child, not a little girl, not an embryo, not an infant. He created a fully developed woman. So when he created trees, he created not a seed. He didn't create a seedling or a small plant. He created full-grown, fully developed trees with age. If Adam could have sawed off a tree, he would have seen the rings. It had age. And so you've got to recognize that everything that God created came with predetermined, I almost hate to say age. I hate, because that gives us the idea, well, what happened before? There is no before. There is no time. There's no measurement. There's nothing that you can wrap your mind around. But recognize that gives the earth age. So when somebody says to me, even this brazen woman that I talked to at the museum, it says these rocks are 20 million, 20 billion, I think it was, 30, 40 years old, it doesn't shake me up too much. She's crazy. But I get it. If there was a way to measure the age of rocks, they were created with age, fully matured, whatever that means for a rock. Now, I do have a little bit of a problem when somebody says, well, this rock is 20 billion and this one is 30 billion and this one's 40 billion. You're out to lunch. They were created together. It's not like even in the idea of this big explosion evolutionary system that seems to go around, it didn't happen in stages. There was this big bang and it all, well, you know what? God created the heavens and the earth. Maybe it banged. I don't know. But I will not rely on modern science, no matter how good it is, if it's in conflict with the Bible. Ever. Because when God said, let there be light, he created time. He created the beginning. In the beginning, God created. So don't let that confuse you. Don't let that upset you. Don't let it bother you. I am not one of these people that says, well, the earth is millions of years old and there's millions of years between creation. That doesn't work. There's no way that functions, and it's just stupid. God created the earth in 6 days, no question about it, but he created it with time. So if you want to wander around and pick up rocks off the beach and wonder how they got here, God made them. Now they have changed through the years, there's no doubt. The action of those waves out there, that'll change rocks. The action of what happened in Noah's flood, that'll change rocks. There was no more than just movement, but there was also pressure and maybe even diamonds created by the great plates moving on this earth. Lots of things have changed and created different kinds of minerals. I get all of that. The age? We've been here about 6,000, maybe 8,000 years, folks. That's about it. Beyond that, time's not measurable. Well, that's all, folks. I appreciate you stopping by. You get a chance, check out tikva.life, Tikvah, tikva.life. You'll find other videos like this, and while you're here in YouTube, if you happen to be in YouTube, click on the bottom and subscribe to our channel. I really appreciate that. That helps us and helps you to get more videos like this. Tikva.life, there's videos, there's the Simon books. The Simon books are also on Amazon, and I appreciate you checking that out. I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks again. Bye-bye.